Hello, beloved twin flames. This is Steph Parasha, Divine Light, coming up to you from New Zealand, Aotearoa. I'm actually taking this little window of opportunity that I've been granted because I'm meant to be having a little business meeting and somebody hasn't shown up. So the person hasn't shown up that I'm meant to meet, and I may have an extra 15 minutes spare. So I've been really wanting to get a video out to you for at least a week. Or more, but it's been really tricky with my schedule and trying to find the right time and the right space and all the rest of it to bring this message through to you. So anyway, as I've sat down to do this message, I'm in a really corporate setting right now. I'm sitting in a kind of bank sort of office thing, and I pulled out some papers to write on, and there sprung out this tiny wee little feather, and it looks like a very unusual kind of little tiny feather off a bird, but it's black and white stripes. And I was like, wow, this is really amazing to get these kind of little symbologies throughout the day. This is a twin flame talk that I've been wanting to have with you for a while, since probably last week when I last spoke to my twin. It always inspires me to share that with you, not the details of the conversation, but I really like to talk about my own experience in the hope that it'll really help others and give you an understanding perhaps of the indication of where perhaps some of our divine masculines might be. I'm not trying to say that we're all the same and we're all doing things in the same way, but collectively there are definite themes that we're all working on together, and I think it might bring comfort for you to hear where my own divine masculine is tracking and how what the kind of things that they're talking about and they're dealing with, so that it can help you understand where maybe a large number of divine masculines are at right now. So he first of all sent me a message and the title of the message began with, "Are you ready?" And I was like, wow, when I kind of looked at it as it flashed across my screen, my heart skipped a beat, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this going to be all about? Is this finally he's realized or something? But when I went into it, he was wanting to send me a song that he'd made up, and the song was pretty much all about him wanting to get in touch with his emotions and wanting to feel them, but not feeling that he could, and he was just desperately trying to access this place where he could feel. And I thought, wow, that is amazing that he really wants to feel. He wants to be able to cry. He wants to be able to feel his emotions. But he says he was talking about how it was very frustrating for him to be in the male body that wouldn't kind of let him, like felt really blocked and hard and difficult for him to access. And so I thought that was really awesome and fascinating that's what he's wanting to do. I think many divine masculines that are on this path of ascension and awakening and evolving are automatically and naturally, what I kind of see it as a melting of the ice of the freeze response, which is that response that many men have had to revert to as an alternative to the fight, as an alternative to the flight. They've had to hold a lot. They've had to remain calm and stoic and strong in amongst a large range of emotions. And being trained, we talked a lot about how he was trained as a young boy not to cry about certain things. There was no point crying over this or that. You want to go to your mummy and cry about that. He was definitely shamed for having those emotions, and so they become shut down and they become what I would interpret as being frozen. And so I talked to him about that, and the numbness that comes with that freeze response, and how difficult it is to access our emotions when they've been cut off by that freeze, that numbness where you want to feel but you can't. So you've got to kind of almost wait for the ice to melt, and I guess the ice melting is the intention of, I'm ready, I'm ready to face my emotions, and perhaps a large number of our beautiful men, our souls that are inhabiting male bodies, because I also don't want to get into this division and duality between male, female, masculine, feminine, all of this, that we are sort of repeating and maintaining that duality, because over time many of us have played different roles, been in different bodies over lifetimes. And in this particular lifetime, it just so happens that, I personally are inhabiting the body of a female. My beloved twin is inhabiting the body of a male. But we're both working on very similar things. However, the souls that are inhabiting male bodies, as they evolve and awaken, are definitely experiencing things differently and have obviously inherited through the DNA and of the physical bodies many of these so-called masculine traits. So therefore we are still unraveling all of this and working it all out. And so it is, yeah. So our conversation was very much around emotions, being able to access them, and how difficult that is as a male. We got onto the subject of, again, we sort of touched on this last time we talked, around being alone and how that feels, and we both identified sort of triggers within our own families where we've felt in our own way very similarly kind of cast out from our families as being quite different, the way that we think, often not included in the family events where your family comes together and his family comes together, and yet we kind of feel often that we've been cast out onto the side, or that when we are involved in a family gathering that we kind of just aren't gelling. Excuse me for that sound in the background. It's just another room next door to where I am. The door's pretty squeaky. And so, yeah, so feeling that feeling of being cast out, feeling alone, and, working through that as well, working through those feelings of aloneness. And it was funny, there's the English word alone is often played with in terms of being able to see it as all one. And so we were talking about that, and his language is, first language is not English. I won't say what his language is, but we were talking about whether that was the same in his language, if he had a similar play on the word alone as in all one. And he said in some ways it wasn't quite the same. So it was just really beautiful to be able to have those conversations with him. And I just again feel when we talk to each other, we're just able to hold each other in a beautiful, compassionate space of healing, where we both feel, it was interesting how he was saying he couldn't access his emotions, but I said I came from the other point of view where I was just almost overly emotional. In my younger years, I just used to cry a lot and become very triggered and easily cry, and I found it hard to control my emotions. And how I worked through that was not to judge myself. And I said I think it was the same path for him, to come into this way where he could feel his emotions and not judge himself for it. So the pathway was the same, to reach, I guess, the same result, which is a balance of, for me in my case, not overly reacting to things, not being overly emotional or feeling everything so deeply, but coming into a more balanced way in which I can understand and rationalize and stay calm and deal with things in a more reasonable way, whilst having the emotion and feeling it, yet being able to manage it and not judge it and feel okay with it, which I felt has been a really big part of the journey around emotions. So I really feel collectively at this point, a large number of humanity, and particularly our beloved males, are going through this time of emotional awakening, where they're going to be becoming and feeling a lot more emotion. And for some of them, that's going to be extremely terrifying, and they're going to feel really out of control with that. And yet others are really welcoming it, and it's beautiful to see. And I was able to share with him some information about a workshop that's happening in New Zealand. It's available to men. In order to do this, it's a training or a workshop or a weekend where they get together and are able to access and get in touch with their emotions in a supportive, loving way with each other. I just think it's really beautiful that these things now are available to our men. So I really support that, and it's beautiful. So Yeah, was there anything else there in relation to my twin? Oh yeah, so there were a couple of concepts this last couple of weeks that have come through to me, and I'm sure maybe many of you have heard of these before, but for me it was new information, weirdly. So I came across the concept anam, cara, which is probably not being pronounced correctly. I apologise. It's a Gaelic or Celtic word that translates to soul friend. And when I read the details about what information that's out there on the internet about what an anam cara is, I thought, wow, that is very, very similar to the twin flame concept. And it's someone that you just have this affinity for. You don't necessarily have to be in a romantic relationship with, but they are your absolute soul friend that you can go to and talk about anything with, and that they'll always be there for you no matter what. And many people obviously are lucky enough to perhaps have a partner or a husband or wife, or that are their anam cara, which is so beautiful. But I just thought it was a really beautiful concept that sits very well within the twin flame beliefs and community. And I think it's something that I'm looking into a little bit more deeply, and helping me to also let go as well of being hung up too much, or a little bit, at times perhaps obsessive on the label of twin flame, and being a lot more flexible around our relationship, and that it doesn't have to necessarily, even within the label anam cara, doesn't have to fit into a particular definition or label or category. So then during the week on the side of this, talking to my twin flame, I'm dealing with a really difficult workplace situation that I've been talking about for a long time. It's ongoing. I guess we're working through it. I kind of use the analogy of a really, really big pimple with a lot of pus in it that needs squeezing, and you sort of get half of it out, and then it's too sore, and you've got to leave it for a bit, and then give it another go, and then eventually you get to the bit where there's the blood, and it's very painful, and it leaves a really hard sort of mark on your skin, and perhaps even scars. One of those really big ones. I guess that's the analogy I'm using for the difficulty that I'm having at work with squeezing out a lot of the horrible toxicity that's been going on there, and addressing it. And at times I've felt quite overwhelmed and very stressed with this situation. And there was one night a couple of weeks ago where couldn't sleep, and I was just beside myself. I was so anxious, and I could feel my solar plexus just really raw and feeling so stressed. And in the middle of the night, I heard these words, Archangel Uriel, Archangel Uriel. And it was like repeated, Archangel Uriel. And I just felt all these goosebumps all over me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And at that point, I was kind of a little bit too tired to do anything, but I kind of just rested that night. The next morning, I got up and remembered Archangel Uriel. So I went and looked him up on YouTube and uncovered some really great stuff out there. In particular, one YouTube video that a woman had put up. Sorry, I can't remember her name. I'll try and find it and link it below. And she basically said quite amazingly that Archangel Uriel will come in for you when you're dealing with toxic people, or difficult, perhaps a workplace conflict, or having to sort of help you understand the situation more, especially around emotions or where you get triggered, having a really more of a he helps support you through those times to have a better understanding to all that's involved. And again, I could get easily bogged down in the what appears to be the situation, but there were definite layers to it. And Archangel Uriel helped me, and also I did a meditation as well that was up on YouTube, an Archangel Uriel meditation that asked you to go a little bit deeper into the feelings around why those situations or those people really affect you the way they do, and what that could be related to, and asking for guidance and wisdom within ourselves to see what it is that needs healing. And so I was really blessed to see that, interestingly enough, a family situation popped up for me. So again, often it's not just the surface situation that we're dealing with. There needs to be a lot more insight into why we have these situations or triggers come up for us. There's more to look at. There's more healing involved. And so when I looked at that, I could see my own feelings within my own family. And again, it wasn't just black and white about me saying, oh, that must be why that woman triggers me, because it's to do with my family and the way that my sister behaves, or, you know, it was more actually what I realized was because I thought, oh, I thought I'd healed that. And I thought, okay, again, you know, you always say, I thought I'd healed that. I thought, you know, that does make me feel that way. But what I was meant to do was see that that woman who's behaving the way she is, she's feeling that way. She feels very left out and very cast out by the family, and the family being the workplace setting. She's feeling like she's on the outer, and her reactions to situations, which are often overreactions, are due to her own perhaps trauma or trigger around her own wounding to do with her own family and being kind of rejected or left out. And so that thereby gave me more understanding of her and an ability to have more compassion for her situation, when I could say, gosh, I actually know how she feels. I know how that feels. And I know, gave me the ability to be compassionate towards her instead of kind of seeing her as this toxic person. I could see why she was behaving the way she was, and it lent me the ability to have full compassion in a more authentic way. Because, you know, we can learn compassion, we can sort of try to be compassionate, but if it's not authentic and it's not from our hearts, it doesn't make any difference at all. It won't hit the spot. And, you know, so again, this might not seem as if it's related to twin flame specifically, but we can't just isolate and focus just on twin flame, twin flame. We live in this world where we are learning so many lessons. We're learning about how to treat others with respect, kindness, compassion, treat ourselves with respect, kindness, love, and compassion. And when we get these tests along the way, because they help to shift our vibration into a place where perhaps, you know, in the past, in this particular situation, I've been really focused on the problem and looking at what's this problem, and this problem, and how am I going to deal with this problem. When I've shifted into this new energy with the help of Archangel Uriel, I've seen, wow, this could come with a really deep healing and transformation for all of us involved if I take the higher road and lift my vibration out of just focusing on the problem and looking at how I can bring love into the situation. And that's what we're learning. You know, that's the bigger picture stuff that we have to really work on within ourselves, and then where the rubber hits the road, we bring that out to the world, and we bring it through in action, and carry it through in the depth of our being, so that it is actually anchored in fully. So yeah, so this is what I wanted to talk about. And then the other thing that was amazing to me was that I follow, and I think maybe also some of the followers that follow me on this channel also listen to an amazing woman that I really admire and love very much, is Amanda Ellis, and was amazed to see that this week she too posted a video where she'd been connecting in with Archangel Uriel. I was like, wow, here he is again. So quite amazing that I think this is a collective energy, where she talked about the putting right of truth and you know, bringing through justice, and where light workers get the opportunity to really do our work, to really stand in our truth and power and love, and show the world really what we're made of, and remain calm when things are becoming difficult around us. We are the ones that need to really shine our light and be those spiritual warriors, using the energy, of course, always of love and truth, compassion, wisdom. So anyway, I hope that helps you this week. I'm going to leave it there for now, because I think the person's probably due to arrive any second. And I just want to say I'm sending out a whole lot of love and light to all of you out there. And goodbye from now.